I'm here to talk to you, before we go any further, I just have a few questions for you. We've all just been standing up, moving around, but I might actually get you to stand up again. A little bit of crowd participation. Before, what I'd love you to do is also to close your eyes. And I would like you to close your eyes and have a think back to your childhood. And I'd like you to think about some of your favourite memories in your childhood. Okay, now that if you found a favourite memory, you can open your eyes. And what I would like you to do is to just sit with that memory for a moment. Feel into it, what it was like being that child. For some of us, it was a lot sooner ago than others. Now, what I would like you to do is to stay standing in those memories if you were outside. Fantastic, that's the entire room. Wow. Wow. Okay, so some good memories happening out there. Okay, now I'd like you to stay standing if you, as that child, had a neighbourhood full of friends that you could play with. Yeah, cool. Okay, we lost a couple. That's all good. Now, I'd like you to stay standing if you, with your friends, and those friends, you could access them pretty much whenever you want. Cool. Still quite a fair few of us. Now I'd like you to stay standing if you, with your neighbourhood friends that you could access whenever you want, if you could go off on adventures around where you lived. On just you and your friends. Stay standing. Great. Now, if you, with your friends, please stay standing if you, while you're off having these incredible adventures, did dangerous stuff. Like stuff you wouldn't tell your parents about when you get home. Yeah, still everybody. Wow, cool. You can stand up if you did that, and maybe not on your own, if you did that on your own. Fantastic. Now, I want you to stay standing if your children can do that today. I'm really great. It's great to see so many folks still doing it. Some of us have got older kids than others. So this is why we're having this summit. We've had this huge shift and change in childhood. So you can sit down now, thanks. This is why we're having this summit. This is why we're doing these things, because we've had this huge cultural shift in what compromises a childhood. What makes up a childhood? What is a childhood today? That has completely changed for the majority of us. And our kids don't get to enjoy the childhood that we have. You could even say there is an intergenerational inequality in relation to the childhood that we had versus what kids have today. So I'm going to ask you to stay and try to, over the next 3 days, to tune into your child. That memory that you just accessed, that you felt into, to tune into that child and listen to that child. Maybe it's a little bit of therapy for everybody, to get more playful and bring a bit more play into our lives, because I often hear it said adults could definitely do with a lot more play. I know I could, definitely. So, I'm really going to ask you to tune into that childhood over the next 3 days. I'm here to tell you about the Australian Institute of Play as well. So this is a local organisation that's been formed in Logan. It's a not-for-profit entity, a registered charity, and its main mission is to increase the conditions, influence the opportunities and increase and elevate the conditions for children to play and to support children to have a voice about that. This entity was formed by largely Logan folks. So this is a local entity for this community to champion and can do things like get funding, get insurance, have staff, build an empire of play professionals, support communities, can do all these incredible things just because it's got this entity status. And the best part of it is it's driven by Logan folks. Could I ask the AIP members, if you're in this room, to stand up? Yes, there's others here. There's another one over there. I know you're here. There's one. There's another one. Fantastic. There's a couple more. So these guys generously give up their time to shape the Australian Institute of Play and to form this. It's been a hard job, not an easy job starting up an entity, but it's also helped, has brought this event to us. So could we give these guys a huge round of applause? Thanks. Thanks, guys. Those guys are also supported by some Logan Play professionals who are also in the AIP. These include Greg Muse, who's done a lot of research and professional, there's Greg, and he works at QUT and he lectures he's done his PhD in play. There you go. He's Dr. Play. And so he's got this amazing wealth of how to make our communities more playful, but how, when we do that, it has a huge, enormous impacts for everybody. So that's incredible. And Lucas, who is down there and playing at the moment, is also on the AIP and supports us with all our playground challenges, issues, support, and generously donating things like this, so to help us really invigorate play across Logan. So, oops, that one I went. I've got this really important task now, and I can't emphasise this. This is the serious part of play. It sounds like an oxymoron, but there is a serious part of play. I'm going to speak to you now. My job now is to represent 148 Logan children. We spent, over the last 18 months, a lot of time getting to know kids in Logan, getting to know their play stories, getting to know about what they need from their communities, getting to know about what happens for them and the entire community when we make huge efforts to increase play, but also what's stopping it, what's stopping play, and what are their solutions, what are their ideas. So, I like to start with this one. This is the Maasai. They are a cultural group in Africa, I'm pretty sure it's Tanzania, that have retained a lot of their cultural norms. And one of their cultural norms that I was introduced to a little while ago, and I just love it, is when they meet anyone, adults, the fiercest warriors, the parents, the elders, when they meet, their greeting isn't hello. Their greeting isn't g'day, how's it going? Their greeting is, how are the children doing? That's how they greet each other. And like us, they have an expectation about a response that they want back from their community as well. And like we want to hear, good, yeah, how you going? Good. They want to hear, the children are doing well. If they don't get this response, it sparks a conversation. Well, what's happening if the children are doing well? It's an interesting thought question, isn't it? So I like to put it out there for you guys to think about, what do you think would be the impact if we were to start using this as our greeting? When you met everybody here, instead of saying hi, you said, so how are the kids doing? What would be the impact? I'd imagine a tsunami of change across our communities. So I can tell you though, in this particular community, in Woodridge, the children are doing well. And they're doing well because the parents in that community are doing exactly that. They talk about, how are our kids doing? The neighbours know each other. They've gone to huge lengths to make sure that their street and everybody in it is connected, and the kids can independently access each other on any given time. And as a result, these kids' lives are so much richer and so much fuller. And we're going to hear a lot about these guys over the next 3 days. But I can tell you, these kids are doing well. So I'm going to give you some bad news now, so I'll make an apology up front. Just so you know, it's just not me rabbiting on. This is some research done in 2013 from Planet Ark, and it looked at how we, as adults, spent our time and now how as children are spending their time now. So 73% of us spent most of our time outside, then more outside than inside, and now it is only 13%. So that's a 60% cultural shift in the way kids are playing. So, and then there's this little bit of research that came out of the UK, and this is 4 generations, one family, across 4 generations. And this is their roaming distance, their independent roaming distance where the kids could go and play. So this is the great-grandfather at the age of 8. That was his roaming distance, which is about 10K. And then I'm not sure what happened. I think maybe cars may have played a role, but the roaming distance got small, and then smaller, and then shrunk. That's the great-grandson now, all at the age of 8. And I can tell you from the conversations that I've had with most people, not just in Logan, but this is a global challenge. And most kids are now not permitted to go outside their front door on their own. And just a little bit more info, so this is about children's independent mobility. And this is based on how many kids independently go to school on their own. And Australia was the last. So our kids, according to this piece of research, are the least free in the world in terms of their independent mobility. And this piece of research came out in 2019. They looked at 146 different countries across the globe, and Australia came 140th in terms of children having doing the amount of physical activity every day required to be healthy. So we came almost last. We were the worst performing developed country. And then this was at the end of 2019 in November, and the World Health Organization issued a global emergency on children's physical activity and urged governments to do anything they can in their power to address this now. Otherwise, by the 2030, there is going to be some huge significant issues. And then COVID hit and we all went inside and sat down. Yeah. And then Queensland, the Queensland government did this incredible study, 5,000 kids around their physical activity budgets. What do they get there? Where do they get their physical activity? And active play was the largest source of physical activity. Out of those 5,200 kids that they surveyed, for active play, the single greatest source of physical activity. Do you want next? Chores. After that, swimming pools, if you've got one, at home. And then a whole bunch of other different things. So it just shows, but here's the kicker. They only did it for 194 days a year. So that's 53% of the year. So 47% of the year they're not doing any active play on average. And they only do 60 minutes a day. And most kids need 3 hours of physical activity every day. So we've got this challenge going on. So we spoke to these 148 Logan children. We've spent a lot of time talking to these guys. And from many different places across Logan. I think it's 31 different suburbs represented. Some more than others, we spent a lot of time. And these kids generously told us what was important to them about their play and their communities. So I'm just going to give you a snapshot about what they sold. I'm just going to try to synthesize that a little bit. So again, I don't take my job lightly. I'm trying my hardest to represent these kids. And I apologise if I'm speaking a little bit too generally at times. So just so you know, these are the age ranges of the children we spoke to. So obviously a lot of kids in the 10, 11, got a lot of 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds too. They were real cute to talk to. Yeah, so that's amazing. And all those efforts happened over around about a 12 months time, a little bit more. So what have we learned? Well, kids need play. They need it. I don't say that with, flippant view. It's like I could say they need food. That's what they need. They need play. They need it. Sometimes they need play more than they need food. I have kids. I know what it's like. They won't come in for lunch sometimes because they're too busy playing and they're getting everything they need from that. So they need it. And they need lots of it. And they need it every day. And and this is really important, they need multiple channels for it. So at school, kids go to school and they play with their friends, that's great. But if that's the only play channel they've got, it's not enough, because sometimes school's not such a good day for kids, and they'll bring that home with them. And kids, play is the work of childhood, and they will use that play, if they have opportunities to play with other children, to decompress, de-stress, and play out whatever's meaningful to them, and get some positive feedback from other friends about who they are. So the neighbourhood and those other places, these places, they are play sanctuaries for children, and they need it. They need lots of it. It also, I can tell you that kids are motivated by the 4 Fs. If you want kids to do things, you've got to give them the 4 Fs. And that's fun, friends, freedom, and fluency, which is challenge and mastery. That's what they need. So they need friends, they need fun, they need friends, and they need opportunities to challenge and master themselves. Some people say, some psychologists will tell you, it's not playing unless they're being challenged. People, Peter Gray, fantastic psychologist, says children play at the edge of their capabilities all the time until it gets boring. And that's because usually they've mastered it and they'll move on to something else. Without play every day, what happens? And I'm telling you what the kids have told me. Their health can decline. That's a sharp focus. Health can decline. Their developmental areas don't get the opportunities to flourish. We have language delays. I speak to a lot of schools in Logan, and that's definitely prevalent. They're seeing that. Low emotional regulation. Kids play out and they chuck tannies, and they need to do that. They have to do it. It's important. I know it's annoying for parents. Kids go off their brains, but that's really, I can tell you, it's important that they do these. They go off their brains, and so they learn that delayed gratification as well from play, and they have a reduced cognitive ability. They have reduced core strength if they don't get it. And a bunch of other things that you can see up there. I've put a few quotes here from some kids just to demonstrate what they're saying, telling to me. Yeah. So it also supports strong feelings of agency, which is really a critical thing. To feel motivated and to feel, I know in my life, having say over things, what I really want to do with my life, I need to feel like I have some say, some agency over it. I feel like I have a degree of control. And kids are exactly like that, the same. They're not separate entities. They're humans like us. We all need some agency. It's also highly restorative and self-expressive and supports all areas of their development. All of them. And there's some brilliant quotes here about what kids get from it. I've broken all the golden rules of slide presentations in this, by the way, by putting too much content on one slide. You heard that? Yeah, I've been telling kids about keeping it simple for their presentations, and I know I've gone and broken all the rules. So kids also get a lot of incredible support for their overall satisfaction of life. So this is one of the things that I love to talk about, because kids need to be able to celebrate who they are without someone telling them who they're going to be. So a lot of a child's lives is all shaped around who they're going to be. And that's great. It's brilliant to have that, but it's also great to have that time just to be. And play gives kids that time. Play lets them decompress from that and just celebrate who they are. So it easily supports children to reach those daily physical activity levels as well. And it supports their healthy sleep, promotes self-concept, so they feel positive about themselves. I love this quote here. Okay. This is a friend of ours, Alice. You might meet her tomorrow. Since she told us that since she started playing outside more and having a community that she can connect with and play with every day, she's now going actively playing sport and getting involved in all these physical activities. And so she got that positive feedback from the community, the friends in the community. It made her feel like she can do these things. And she felt more motivated to do it. So she made that change, and that all happened by having that sanctuary of a neighbourhood to be able to test, trial and master those things and get some positive feedback. For the community, again, this is what we found out from the community, and this is a brilliant quote from a neighbourhood play champion, and another one up here. I might just leave you with those to read for a second. So one of the things that really surprised me from when we were talking with a lot of the community members about what's happening in those communities was how it seemed to override stigma. So stigma is one of the biggest barriers to play. How people feel about their communities definitely has an impact on whether or not a child gets to play in it and connect with local kids. So if that is being overruled and people start to feel a positive effect, a positive relationship with their neighbourhoods, and there's this reporting of our neighbourhoods feeling safer just because we know everyone, that then creates a new story in those communities, and then that impacts the children's being able to connect, and then they play more. So what will increase play? This is what the kids told me about what their ideas, and I've sort of adultified a bit of them, and summarised them. So they want security and supervision. So they want to feel safe, but they don't want the adults involved. Tricky, eh? So they want us there, they want us to be involved, but only when they want us to be involved. This is that agency. But they want us to be there to supervise them so they have that space. They want grown-ups to take charge of their safety. So they want to know that the community has been shaped and the adults in there are working hard to protect it. They want lots of opportunities to socialise, lots of space for children to socialise, opportunities and space. The road for me has been one of my greatest challenges in securing a lot of free spaces for kids to play. Not all roads are acceptable play spaces like that one out there, but most neighbourhood roads are quiet, don't have a lot of through traffic, and with a little bit of getting to know your traffic conditions and your kids getting to know the traffic conditions, they can actually become safe spaces, and you can change everybody's view on what's happening in those communities. So we know with some of the neighbourhood play networks, the locals that drive through there are driving through knowing that children could be playing at any time. And so kids want their privacy, their play privacy, so they want adults to be involved, but they don't want you to be involved. Tricky balance. And they want reduced traffic concerns, dedicated play zones. One particularly cool idea I thought was a kids hotel. and they also suggested education stuff in there as well. So wow, not just a whole big fun parlour. And then also the reduced fear from adults. They hear adults a lot of time. We talk about the way we talk about our communities. The kids hear it, and it impacts them. And they're making their minds up about their communities based on what other people are telling them. And I'm a parent. I know we just want our kids to be safe, but that's a short-term solution and not a long-term one. So, important play planning considerations. Throughout the next 3 days, we've got these play action planning workshops. So I thought I'd synthesise for you what the kids have told us and how we can, as adults, being accountable to their voices, take what they've told us into those planning sessions. So important planning considerations are those things. Many, again, breaking the golden rule of slides, I've given you lots of reading to do. Many neighbourhoods and communities need to be socially reconstructed. That's a lot to unpack. What that in essence means, our communities need to be rebuilt. And it's really as simple as getting out and saying hi to your neighbours, but it can also, it's got to be consistent. We have to do a consistent effort, and it has to be regular Yeah. So this reconstruction process also could mean we need to redesign our neighbourhoods physically as well in some spaces. Neighbourhoods can be sanctuaries for children and their development. Children need to be able to initiate their play independently. If adults are creating and organising play dates, that's fantastic, and that's another play channel. But at some point in time, kids need to be the ones driving it. Otherwise, they will stop driving it and they'll wait for somebody else to do it. Intrinsic motivation, just for the sake of it. Kids need to have a love of play. Up until recently, psychologists thought play just automatically happened, and there was something that we were innately driven to do. And if given the opportunity, yes, that is true. But if it's not given the opportunity to develop that intrinsic love of play, then kids will not seek it out after a long periods of time. Most local parks are not accessible. I know our planning schemes usually cater for a park every 400 metres, and I've heard it lots of times from council who I've worked with. Oh, the kid's got a park down the road, why do you need to close a street? They'll just go to the park. Well, that's great, yes, the park is good, but they're not allowed outside the front door. And that means the play only happens when it's on the adult's time frame, the adult's agenda. So we're not, again, creating opportunities for those intrinsic motivation, and it puts a lot of pressure on us parents to be everything for our kids. And we're out there working, doing all those things in our community, taking care of our kids in terms of their, feeding them, clothing them, all those amazing important things too. But kids need to be the drivers of what they're doing. So the path down the road, brilliant. They'll get there eventually once they have a community that they can get down there with. But first, we need to do that reconstruction process. Most children's play opportunities rely on the great attitude, and then multi-age play is essential. Multi-age play is essential. Kids look up, out and through the world. And so a 2-year-old will look to a 3-year-old, to a 4-year-old. What's next? What's next? And they'll look up, out and through to the life that they can expect. And when we have lots of kids playing together, that sets that bar for what is coming up. And kids will then have these expectations about what they can do and what they need to do. If we can build all those into those play action plans, if we make a decent effort to make these changes across our community, and we already are, if we can continue that, then I reckon we'll be able to easily have that title. Like the most playful city in the world. It's something we can all be proud of. What a legacy to leave behind for our children and for our children's children. Thank you very much.